Quit being such a child. You're telling me because you lost a little bit of motivation that all of this hard work that you've put into doing a task and trying to achieve this goal that you've had in your mind, and now is the time that you're going to freeze up? How about instead you shut up, you just go out there, do the thing that you have to do, and then it'll all be fine. That is what I tell myself sometimes, and it's not the advice I would give to other people. See, I'm my biggest critic, but that doesn't mean that it's the right advice. It's just sometimes what my inner thoughts tend to tell me every now and again when I get frustrated trying to work towards my goal. But what if you freeze up? What should you do? Well, I'm going to go over the couple things that kind of go into freezing up and some of the reasons that you do freeze up while chasing your goals. So focus in and let's get into it. Jumbo, my friend, this is What the Fuss. It's a podcast that answers your questions about physicality and mentality in order for you to achieve your active goals. I'm Coach Zoe, or the Coach Zoe you know, and today I'm going to talk about why you might freeze up. Before I talk about freezing up, I'm going to talk about something a little bit warmer, which is the tea that I'm drinking. This episode is brought to you by tea. Tea. It's not coffee, but I guess it'll do. This tea that I have right here is just a combination of a couple different things. It's like a chai tea, but it's also a like blueberry tea. Both of these like loose leaf, not in the bag. Normal Lipton teas are the ones that I usually buy. But they were combined together in the same bag to make, I guess, what would be called, what's blueberry and chai together? Blue chai? Buchai, whatever. It's decent, you know. But now that we have that quick sponsorship out of the way, I'm going to talk about freezing up. So freezing up occurs in a few different ways, right? For marathoners, sometimes physically freezing up is hitting what's known as the wall. The wall is an area where while you're running a race, all of a sudden your body starts to fail you. And it starts locking up and you're not able to move like you were before, and you just hit this physical wall where basically you freeze up at that point and you're not able to get around it for a long period of time. For most of us though, mentally, freezing up usually is when we're trying to work on some goal. We know where the end point is and where we're trying to get to. Maybe about, 70% of the way through. All of a sudden we want to quit and we want to stop. I know that that's happened sometimes to me in the past where I've been working on a goal, even with some of the marathon stuff I've been doing now. I've been working on the goal for years, trying to get to this certain time that I'm wanting to get in order to qualify for some races. And I've gotten to points where I'm like, why am I doing this? Maybe I should just stop. And it's not because I've fallen out of love with it, it's just because maybe I was a bit burnt out by it, or perhaps there are some other reasons. But for most people, the reasons that you freeze up is either because you fear change or because you're chasing someone else's goal. It's usually one of those two. But let's talk about the first one, right? So, you fear change. And I'm not going to say that change necessarily is uncomfortable, because it's not really the change that's the bad thing. Things change all the time, and it's not that change is the more uncomfortable thing, it's more that failure is the uncomfortable thing, because with change comes a little bit of doubt, and from that doubt comes a little bit of failure, if you know what I mean. And this failure that comes from change is usually the reason that you fear it. People don't like to fail. Change is an uncomfortable thing to do. I'll give you an example. When I was working on originally just trying to get into fitness, I'm not going to say health and wellness because I'll tell you why in a sec, but when I was trying to get into changing my lifestyle to pretty much be a fitness lifestyle, where I was slowly adding in workouts and slowly trying to make my body stronger and faster, for at the time it was rugby and running and just trying to look a little better in a swimsuit. And at the time, I was doing pretty well. I was putting in these workouts, going 6 to 7 days a week, trying to work on different areas, keeping everything balanced, except for my eating. I went off the mindset that I can just go and I can put a bunch of food into my mouth, and by putting this food into my mouth, that will automatically translate to the energy that I'm able to put into exercise. And easy, I've figured out fitness. I can eat what I want as long as I just work it off. And I know now that that was the biggest reason that I wasn't actually changing, is because I was putting in all this time to work out, but it didn't really look like it. I kind of looked pretty much the exact same for the majority of that time. And I just had very poor eating habits. I would go run a bunch of miles and then I would shove a large pizza and a few more slices into my mouth and be having that be justified for the activity that I did. And I realized that I had this fear of changing from these eating habits because A, that's a big change, it's uncomfortable, but B, what if I went through all this change in my eating habits and suffered through all that time to get nothing out of it? In order to figure out that I needed to change, I kind of needed a wake-up call to this. And I had this wake-up call from, it was actually my dad who told me. He saw that I was getting into all this working out and exercising and putting all this time in, and then he saw like me eating, I think it was like a cheeseburger pizza, where literally like the crust was like topped with French fries and there was like burger pieces on it. It was delicious at the time, but as I was eating it, he said, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "What? I'm just eating after I did a lot of working out." And he goes, "You're not going to get anywhere with this, and you're not going to change anything if you don't actually change yourself." And I realized that I was putting in a bunch of this time, but I really was just stopping myself and basically making myself quit on actually making any change, because that's scary. And the main way that you can get out of this, let's say that's the bad habit for you, is that you can't change your eating around. Or let's say that it's that you can't actually get in to start exercising. The thing that you need to do is you need to do some micro changes for the actual macro goal. So for example, my macro goal is to be able to run Boston. By qualifying for Boston, I need to run a sub 3-hour marathon. And I'm slowly getting closer. I've had some hiccups along the way, but I'm getting there overall. But what do you have to do? So let's say with my eating, I need to make micro changes for this macro goal of having the right fitness to run fast for Boston. To do that, instead of what most people do and they say, you know what, I'm cutting everything cold turkey, I'm just gonna go right into this and it'll be great, no problems. You need to change things on the micro level. You start by just cutting out sodas, or not even all sodas. You start by, let's say you drink soda every day, you cut it out every other day. And if you can do that consistently for a week, good. Then you just cut out one more. And you just keep ticking one off the list until all of a sudden you're not drinking sodas anymore. And you do the same for other foods. And you do the same for working out. You start to just put one workout in every other day. Nothing too intense. You can literally put in like 5-10 minutes of working out every other day. And if you can keep consistent with that, then you can start to add some extra days in there. You just need to make these small changes, and that's the way that you're actually going to get around from freezing up and eventually getting to this overall macro goal of where you want to be. But let's say it's not that you fear change. This next bit is kind of hard to figure out for most people. What if you're chasing someone else's goal? So I ask you, with the goal that comes up in your mind, when you think about some goal, it could be with work, it can be with your hobbies, it could be with whatever takes up your time. How did you get into it? And I just really want to know, because if it's something where somebody else told you, oh, this would be a great thing, and then you tried it and now you're just still doing that same thing, whether it's your job, like people said, oh, you'll love making burger pizzas, and you'll love to make burger pizzas, you'll enjoy doing it all the time, and eventually you can own this burger pizza shop where we combine burgers and pizzas together to make pizzas. And in this pizza shop, you've been doing it for years and you're like, man, I've put so much time into this, maybe I'm gonna hit this goal and get here, but it's not really your goal. It's what somebody else kind of made a goal for you. And you figure out that maybe you don't enjoy actually making pizzas, and you don't really know like what to do about it, and you kind of lose your motivation to make these pizzas. The thing that people ask me the most is they ask me about different strategies for like motivation and staying on track, which is how I got this question. And the thing I would say is, yes, sometimes you need a little swift kick in the pants to be able to get back into the routine of doing the thing that you love to do. But most people, they just need to change things up. And I know for a lot of people, this is something you're like, well, I can't change up my job. How am I going to do something like this? Or how am I going to support this and that? But if you're putting in your time into a job or a hobby that you're just doing it more to kind of impress somebody else, or it's somebody else's goal besides your own, why are you doing it? Why are you wasting the time to go into that goal if you don't have a passion for it? So my advice would be to just try many different types of things in order to find your goal thing, because your goal thing is going to be the thing that you'll get to where you don't need the motivation every single day to be able to go do that thing if it's something that you love and you can see kind of where you're going with it, or you have some idea of what you want to achieve just for you, not for anybody else, but just for you. So when it comes to freezing up and it comes to goal setting, you need to just think about that. Perhaps it's that you're chasing somebody else's goal. And B, if you get to this point and you freeze up, perhaps you're just fearing to make some change in your life that could actually help you get over this hurdle to be able to get to that goal end point. Now, I'm not saying when you get to the end point, it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows. I know that when I get to actually run Boston, it's not going to be like the biggest thing ever, and I'm not going to completely have a happy, joyful life from here on out. But I do know that it's going to be great because I worked through it and I was able to have highs and lows on the journey to be able to get there and to be able to work hard to achieve this goal. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions that you want me to address on the podcast, go ahead and shoot them to me at the Coach So You Know on Instagram. That's where I'll get back to you the fastest, or you can reach out through my website, fossmovement.com. Otherwise, my friends, take chances, make mistakes, and don't let the noise of other people drown out that inner voice for you to chase your own goal. I just don't want you to freeze up, and I want you to be able to stay on track to do that active thing that you love. Talk to you soon.